Texas Senator Ted Cruz announcing Carly Fiorina as his VP running mate, although mathematically it's impossible right now for him to become president. The ex-presidential hopeful and former Hewlett-Packard CEO, Carly Fiorina, she's going to be by his side as he tries to take the GOP nomination. Now, perhaps the most shocking reaction to Ted Cruz is former Speaker of the House John Boehner. Coming unhinged. This is what he had to say about Cruz in a public discussion at Stanford University. He calls Ted Cruz Lucifer in the flesh. Then he goes on to say this: I have Democrat friends and Republican friends. I get along with almost everyone, but I have never worked with a more miserable son of a bitch in my life. Joya, I nearly fell out of my chair. He's clearly off the chain and had all of those bad words bottled up the whole time he was Speaker, and he really couldn't say them. You know, that would be a lack of decorum on his part. He'd be censored. But now that he's not, his comments are hilarious.
He's like, I've been keeping this inside for so many years. I mean, well, it's interesting just because Ted Cruz is no stranger to people hating him, right? I mean, he's had to, I know, it's just, this is very extreme. But I mean, I know that Ted Cruz came back saying that he'd never really worked with Boehner. But again, I think that's just his way of, he's had to navigate people's rage and hatred for him for so many years.
Really hate his guts. I mean, and to have the Speaker of the House call you a miserable SOB, you know, you're really not liked. Now, I want to go over the numbers with you. There are 583 delegates still up for grabs. Trump has 987. That magic number is 1237. Cruz only has 562. So even if he takes all of those, he still wouldn't be president unless there was a contested convention, in which case would be. Yeah,
well, basically,
like he's really.
They're at the point where they know, both Kasich and Cruz, they themselves don't have enough delegates to get the nomination themselves, but it's about just kind of like blocking Trump at this point. It's also talked about one of the reasons Ted Cruz even chose Fiorina as his running mate is because Trump has very low favorability among women, so it's possible that that's supposed to give a bump, even though Carly Fiorina has very anti-woman policies that she's talked about before, just with regards to reproductive rights and everything. So,
I mean, there's no question Trump he's made some divisive comments that concern women. And Boehner, speaking of Trump, he cites at the Stanford talk publicly that he's tweeting buddies with Trump, that he plays golf with him, that he's probably going to vote for Trump. And then he says, but he's adding, and I'm riffing here a little bit, he goes on to say that Bernie Sanders is the most likable guy, the most honest politician in the race. That's interesting coming from Boehner. And then he talks about Hillary Clinton saying, oh, I'm a woman, vote for me. So he's sort of mocking her, but then he goes on to talk about her accomplishments. So it wasn't a total slap and jab at her. Taking this back to Cruz for just a moment, because Cruz has been known to liken himself to Ronald Reagan. He considers himself, Reagan politician. There's a rumor that even members of his staff are former Reagan people in Reagan's administration. I want to take you back to one more thing that Boehner had to say about Cruz really quickly. I love all these knuckleheads talking about the party of Reagan. He would be the most moderate Republican elected today. So apparently he doesn't think Cruz is anything like Reagan. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or an insult, but it's...
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's, I want to know the context of when these quotes happen. You just like imagine someone like.
Wednesday night, he was just riffing on a stage at Stanford University.
It sounds like, he's like at a bar with someone like, oh, I'll tell you what I think about Cruz. You know what I mean? And so, but it's totally true. I mean, a lot of people liken themselves to Reagan, or they herald him as being this, real wonderful bastion of, But then, I mean, Cruz is exponentially more conservative than even Reagan was, and he wasn't liberal by any means.
Right, he's crossing streams with Fiorina too to up his conservative establishment image there. Boehner never disappointing with these comments. He's really become unhinged lately, saying whatever he wants, whatever he's had bottled up inside all this time. Cruz, of course, shooting back at Boehner, saying that he belongs to the party of Pelosi. He likens Boehner to Pelosi, although they're on different sides of the aisle. Perhaps one of the most funny comments that I'm just going to leave you with that Boehner said at this discussion. He says, don't be shocked if 2 weeks before the convention, here comes Joe Biden parachuting in and Barack Obama fanning the flames to make it all happen. Well, Boehner not skipping a beat, telling us what he really thinks about all of his former coworkers and these current presidential hopefuls.